Hi, everybody. Mike Cadjo again from Procurement Foundry. Really excited for breakout session number 1. I'm just going to kind of let it crank up for a couple of seconds, and we're going to get started. We've got a 45-minute panel discussion led by Tina Fegent. Amazing panel of folks right now talking about media agency partnering, how to get the best out of your media agency relationships. And I'll let Tina go through the panel, and they'll do their introductions and things like that. Just letting everybody get into the room really quickly. So again, this is breakout session number 1. It looks like everybody figured out how to use the interactive agenda for this one. So really excited that everybody's figuring that out and how that all works. I know Procurement Foundry with Slack and Zoom is a little bit different than some of the other organizations, but the fact that we've got a staff of 2.5 and we run this thing for free, well, this is what you get. So anyway, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to shut up and go off screen. Tina's going to run us for 45 minutes. We've got Q&A, by the way, for functionality. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So please use Q&A, please use chat, and ask all of the questions that you can of the team. The panel is going to be monitoring chat, and I'll be monitoring Q&A, and so won't Tina. And we'll work into the equation. Right around 45 minutes from now, I'm going to pull the plug. Tina's going to tell me to come back on. I'm going to give you some more instructions on how to get to the next session. All right. So with that, I will hand the microphone over to Tina, and you all have a wonderful panel discussion. Thank you so much, by the way, to all of the panelists and to moderator Tina. That's great. Thanks, Mike. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well on this very rainy day here in the UK. We've got a rock star panel, as Sarah said in the chat there, to talk about media agency partnership. We thought it was really important to talk about how agencies and clients work together to create a win-win. So as Mike said, we've got 45 minutes. We've got a set of questions that we're going to go through with our panel, but please feel free to start putting your questions in the Q&A. And then what we do, we'll try and pick them up as we go along. So yeah, please put them in the Q&A and then we'll pick them up. So I'd like to introduce my rock star panel. We have Adam, who is the US CEO of Mindshare. Mariano, who is the head of sourcing for global consumer bank Citi. We have Nina, who is the global advertising agencies and media category lead at Teva. And we have Rob, who's the president and COO of Empower. So welcome, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you very much for joining us today. So perhaps, Adam, we start with you. How's the pandemic affected Mindshare this year, and how are you guys feeling, and how's the agency world?
I think like most people, you know, we're going through the usual pivots and shifts and that sort of thing, as Rashad just talked about, new technologies, remote working, that sort of thing. All in all, though, I would say the thing that we've learned through all of this is that there's a huge amount of resilience in our people and in our culture. And for us, there's a great quote by Mark Carney, a UK economist, that we've kind of used as the guiding light for us, which is when all is said and done, companies are going to be judged based on how they weathered the war, you know, how they handled employees, suppliers, and partners, and who shared and who hoarded. And for us, that's kind of been the bellwether of how we've tried to act throughout all of the craziness that COVID's thrown at us.
Yeah, thank you. And Rob, as an independent media agency, how have you guys weathered the storm?
Sorry?
Rob, how have you weathered the storm from an independent agency point of view?
I don't want to tempt fate, but really, really well, actually. Financially, we had a record year last year, and we're exactly where we were this time last year. So financially, there's been no impact. We've continued to grow. Culturally, we were able, being independent and privately owned, we were able to guarantee to everybody on the 1st of March that there was going to be no furloughs, no layoffs, no reduction of salary. So what that enabled us to do really is pivot with certainty, because the client, you know, the staff weren't worrying about their jobs. So from that point of view, then it's culturally made us a lot closer and a lot stronger. And then with that level of certainty internally, we were able to partner, and we built better relationships, I think, with clients. You know, dare I say, I think we've also picked up a number of pieces of business, because we're based in Cincinnati and Chicago. We picked up a substantial amount of business from clients who were not able to seeing the same level of sort of seamless service in New York. So I hate to say this, and touch wood, no one's been affected. We've had no positive tests, which is the first and foremost. But it hasn't really affected us at all. In actual fact, when we look at the remote, pivoting to remote, we've actually tracked it. We're 10, 11% more efficient. So all in all, it's kind of been an eye-opener. And, you know, we've, again, touch wood, you know, managed to go through it.
Great, thanks, Rob. And Nina, from a Teva point of view, how have you guys got on the last 6-7 months? Seems a long time ago now. So we can't hear you there, Nina. Can't hear you. We'll go to Mariano and then we'll come back to you. How's Citi weathered the storm?
I think we've done really well overall. I don't know that we can say that we have weathered the storm. I think we are still probably in the middle, or depending how you see it, probably the beginning of the storm, or what the real storm is going to be. So we're in a present tense weathering the storm and trying to position ourselves to be reliable for our customers and resilient as a business. So I think we have managed to quickly, very quickly, for an organization our size and our legacy stature, to change and adapt in many ways. We left the office mid-March, and for the most part in the North America footprint haven't really come back. In other part of the world, we had different realities, and all of that was done, and also impacted our suppliers in many areas. So I think we're learning to live with the change and the agility that we need. So far, I think we're in a good position. I think the cautionary thing is I believe that we are in for the long run on some of the effects and what needs to be taken care in the coming months. So we don't want to make claiming victory or think that the worst is over. I hope it is, but I just don't want to assume that.
Yeah, agree. Nina, can we see if we can hear you?
Hear me now?
Yep, can hear you. Bit faint, but can hear you. Brilliant.
Technology.
So how has it been for Teva? How have you guys been?
Yeah, so being a pharma company, we haven't been hit in exactly the same way some of the other advertisers have been hit. If anything, we've been hit with work, right? So especially in Q1, Q2, we saw an increase in demand from the healthcare providers and patient community. So we actually needed to increase our production volumes and deal with all kinds of challenges, from logistics to getting enough PPE to our production side. So advertising and marketing departments almost needed to kind of stand back a little bit, right? And of course, adjust the ways of working to the new normal, but there weren't any big shifts or changes in this space happening for us. So in terms of like from the procurement standpoint, right, we just needed to make sure we're helping our business partners to spend money smarter, assure the continuity of services, risk management, and of course, like for me personally, we were focusing a lot on our agencies, including media, and like making sure we understand how their business has been hit and how it affects our operations and services.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So you worked really closely with your media agency over the last 6-8 months?
We most certainly did. Yeah, that's when our partnership strengthened and grew, definitely.
And what sort of stuff have you worked through with them? Is it looking at different budgets and impact of changing your advertising plans?
Yes. Again, like I said before, our media budgets, for example, they had been cut, right? I guess, and that has been happening throughout the industry, right? So for us, for example, on some markets where we're heavy on TV, we've actually experienced significant deflation because advertisers were pulling the budgets out. So we needed the agency partner to help us figure out how to reinvest some of the money that was freed up in some cases, right? So in that regard, I think we're really fortunate that we finalized the consolidation of media across all our like 23 markets. before the pandemic, and we've set up a SRM process and a governance structure before the pandemic. So that really helped us deal with some of the like ad hoc issues and challenges that were coming up in different markets.
Great. Mariano, from Citi's point of view, how have you worked with your media agency over the last 6-8 months?
First and foremost, we took a gradual approach to the change, meaning for the first few weeks, we decided that we didn't want to rush to do crazy things. So we provided certain stability as everybody was kind of figuring things out. Again, this is late March, early April. And right after that, we went into a very direct conversation with all our partners about, providing increased flexibility. That was kind of probably the more, and I'm sure Adam and others can have seen that from the other side, which is a lot of the plans that we have, especially for second quarter, will change. A lot of things were put on hold. And then when it comes from media in the general aspect, not just advertisement, but when it comes to sponsorship and other things, as we all know, big events were canceled or delayed. I mean, the Olympics, outdoor racing, a lot of things, everything was impacted at least for a few months. So it was a lot about figuring out the short-term changes and creating flexibility for the long term. Also, the way that we use our media dollars, and especially on the advertisement front, shift significantly from some traditional media to some new way of doing it with even more, relevance on some digital channels. So I think it was more about the recognition that we needed to create flexibility, but at the same time, we can proudly say that we have respected and maintained all our commitments. We just, we have issue or we have closed deals really in the weeks before this, and we still respected those deals. So I think that's kind of our approach.
Thank you. Adam, from your point of view, how have you seen working with procurement over the last 6 months? How's that been? Are you seeing that win-win, the sort of title of our talk?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to what Mariano and Nina have said. I think actually in a strange way, situations like this and unfortunate circumstances bring people together and they point you towards a common enemy. And then in this case, the enemy was the uncertainty of COVID, whether it was, people, whether it was business, or a combination of things. So our partnership with most of our procurement and sourcing teams have gotten stronger through this as we've all tried to, join together and assess the strategic kind of challenges and merits of plan changes, last minute, adaptations that we had to make, swapping out due to product availability, all of those sorts of things that kind of affected the entirety of the ecosystem. And so whether it was, cancellations in plans, whether it was shifting things around, whether it was swapping out one product or brand for another, it seemed like it was a moment to kind of galvanize everybody.
Great, thank you. And Rob, from your point of view, how have you worked with your procurement clients over the last 6 months?
Well, I think to Mariano's point, I think in the first few months of uncertainty, when we proactively went to everybody talking about media costs, I think that's important. I think also, a key to this is we will come out of this with looking at our partners who are proactive versus those who are reactive. That is going to be
totally agree. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the making of relationships going forward. Were you there for us in this time? So I mean, so proactively, while people were understanding what they were spending, how they were spending, we were out there still making sure that what was going through was getting the best value. I think over the last, as that's gone on, I think 3 things. Yes, cost. People have been much more cost sensitive. I think people have relied on agencies can't help themselves in adding value. They simply can't. So agencies have added value. I don't think clients necessarily have had to go looking for that. I think it's about cost. It's about payment terms. Payment terms have been a huge conversation. Again, our ability is a little bit greater there because we don't have global alignments and global agreements. All of that, everything we have is kind of local in the US. And then I think what we're seeing, we've already started to see it with new clients, is the rise of what we call the COVID clause.
What's that?
That's cancellations, flexibility. What if what if there's an act of God kind of thing? Things that we never thought we'd talk about. And I think the flexibility piece is also going to be huge. And contracts built around commitments. I think now are built around flexibility. So that really the three longer term drivers are those. Yeah, the media cost piece I think is a very tactical in the moment piece.
Nina, I see you nodding there. You agree with what Bob was saying? Have you got a COVID clause? I like that.
We don't, but I was laughing about the payment terms piece. And yeah, definitely. I know we have those questions later on, but yeah, the focus on the cost and the payment terms.
Yeah. Mariano, about you? Have you got a view about COVID clauses, or are you looking at those sort of things?
Well, I mean, not so much on this space on the media side. I think more of the clauses were around building budget flexibility. I think that's probably what really came to mind, having the ability to move things, not just between products, but also between periods. So if we're committing for 3 years, maybe the 3-year commitment is stable, but the pace of what we go in different quarters or months of the year can be shifted, obviously within certain limits and with anticipation. And there was obviously in other categories, there's a lot more specific things, especially when it comes to the way we're working, and everybody's on their homes or places. So, but that's more on it could have impacted a little bit on the creative side. Some of the things that we're doing there, you can see everybody filming with masks and everything. So it's there are some safety and other things going on in that area. But I think flexibility and having the ability to move things around is the main impact in the current term.
Yeah. And what elements do you see within Citi in terms of having a win-win relationship with your media agency?
Just juggling. I don't quite think that there's always that kind of thing win-win, but we're trying to, again, win some and lose less. I guess that's the net impact. I think it's what the other panelists already mentioned, is the idea to understand the strengths and the different attributes of your partners, for the good and for the bad. So understand what people can be proactive, or even if you're reactive but you're really good at reacting, that's not necessarily bad, because sometimes you can't be too proactive, because who could have been proactive for COVID? We never knew it was going to hit us. So part of that, it was to be reactive and quickly react to the situation. So I think that was one of the positive things that come out of this. I think also from a pure procurement, and this is a procurement forum, the other thing that I see was a strengthening relationship between the media teams, the CMO organizations, and the sourcing, because again, necessity, like Adam was saying, kind of bring people together, galvanize us. So when we all needed to do things, we learned to collaborate better. So, and I think it goes with the partners as well. So we also taking, and I'm sure we'll talk probably later about that, but we're taking a very active stance on driving other changes in terms of the way we use our funding and our dollars, and promoting social equity and diversity. So that was another thing that within the darkness of many of the months that we have lived, we took a bright spot to take our stance on this.
Yeah, thank you. Adam, what about you from an agency point of view about win-win? Rob sort of said of things like added value, the flexibility. I know, we've already got a question about payment terms bound to come up in a media panel, isn't it? Do you see it being a win-win with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that you can, and we need to more than ever orchestrate, a win-win situation. But for me, and certainly the approach that we take is that we need to evolve the way in which we view a win-win from purely being about savings and cost to being about business output and performance. And if we can start to move away from purely looking at a templated cost savings approach, which is an antiquated way of viewing things, or becoming more antiquated, and move into tangible business performance and metrics that actually drive a business forward, then you can create a mechanism that's mutually beneficial. And I think that starting with that as the output and reverse engineering from what we want to do for a business and how we can, to Rob's point, how we can help the business. That allows us both to be in a position where actually we can better navigate times like this despite the uncertainty and deliver for clients in the long run.
We've got a question come here from Mark about win-win presupposes that folks are going to be rational. How have you found the counterparts pro-liberty to be rational during these times?
Can I just say to you, the question you asked me was what are procurement looking for, not what was a win-win. I didn't say payment, extended payment terms was a win-win. I said that's what's being looked for. So I just want to clarify that, be very clear.
Thanks, Rob.
Can I just say though, the other thing on a win-win, we talk about 3 T's: trust, transparency, togetherness. But I think there's another T, which is tenure, right?
Okay.
To get to a win-win takes time. It's a relationship that needs to develop. You know, our average tenure of a client is 9 years. Yeah. And no scope is correct the first time round.
But firstly, the average tenure of a CMO role, which is what, 2 years?
2 years, yeah. Well, I mean, the average procurement cycle is what, three years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that part, a win-win requires a proper partnership, and proper partnerships develop over time. And they develop through these moments, through hardships on either side. So I just want to be clear that when you're pitching or trying to repitch for business every 3 years, it's kind of difficult to get to a win-win. Yeah. So that would be one of my takes. I think the other practical point on a win-win is scopes. How many times do you hear a marketing person, I don't care what's in the scope, right? You know, and I think a much more emphasis and importance on the scope versus what it takes to win or to win the business is the base foundation for a win-win. Yeah. And I think that, you know, again, this period is showing that.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Nina, what's your view of sort of the win-win side of things, or Rob's point about the measurement, focus on cost savings, and obviously Rob brought up as well as at the start, and the scope side of things, and how are you working with your internal clients to sort of sort that sort of stuff out? I mean, obviously scope's really important in terms of getting that sorted, but are the clients pushing for cost savings in terms of, are you getting that from the CFO? You know, are you trying to have that win-win relationship, but perhaps internal factors are affecting it?
Yeah, very loaded question.
Yeah, it was. There's a lot in there as well.
So yeah, I mean, first of all, if I would need to say like what's the number one key to like develop a win-win or just the relationship, right? I'd say the transparency. Again, I feel like agencies sometimes they feel like they have 2 clients, like right, one is marketing and one is procurement, and sometimes we have different agendas or view things in a different way or asking for different things. So everyone should be just transparent and clear, right? What's in the agenda, and yeah, clients should have like a common voice, marketing and procurement going to an agency and describing what is a success and how it should look like, right? In terms of savings, I mean, let's be realistic. It's a metric that procurement will always probably need to be reporting, right? Especially for those organizations who report into finance or supply chain. So for us, it is one of the focuses, but we're not so much focused on delivering savings. We're focused on like measuring them or tracking them, right? And make sure that across all the markets, we're doing it in a consistent way, and we understand the baseline we're measuring against. But personally, I am trying to put out a message to the leadership, to finance, to supply chain, to operations, that media is not a spend, it's an investment, right? And we need to be measuring, we need to be better about measuring the quality and the return of that investment, because like otherwise, what's the point, right? We're buying the cheapest of what and like for what? And the role of procurement is very important to deliver that message, because the leadership should understand media is something that drives the outcome, right? And if procurement is running after like the cheapest reach, buying the cheapest reach, we're not gonna get anywhere, right? And sometimes we're complaining about media agencies not having the right skills and being more buyers than strategists. Well, we're asking, in a lot of cases, we're asking them to buy a cheaper thing, right? That's why they put in people on our account who are more buyers. And if we switch that conversation to look more at the quality, then the skills of the agency will adjust and be more on the strategy side.
Thank you. Rob, someone's asked to repeat what your T's were: trust, transparency, tenure. What was the third one?
Well, the third one officially is togetherness. Tenure is the fourth one that I've added.
Okay. Copyright Rob.
Yeah.
So come on, let's talk about payment terms. There's quite a few comments in the chat, the Q&A about payment terms. Adam, payment terms, view on payment terms.
What about them? I mean,
what are you seeing? Are you seeing 120 days? Which obviously, you know, if you talk to the Mark Reed, you know, it's just in terms of media and working capital, it's just like that's just not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't, and there will inevitably be those out there that demand that, and those that look towards a solution that's viable for all parties. And there are solutions that we will explore to extend payment terms, you know, in some cases, whether it's supplier financing or whatever the case may be. But I think the bigger issue is this is not a business that we are in, which is being a bank. And so we do unfortunately get to a point where even with the best of intentions, even with the right strategy, even with a relationship that we think, you know, can be mutually beneficial, we do find ourselves in situations where we have to walk away because payment terms are just not viable. And I think as more and more pressure comes onto both sides of, you know, of the table, finding, you know, alternative mechanisms and solutions that work is going to become, you know, the new norm. But I think trying to impose or believe that there is a black and white to, you know, 120-day payment terms is not the future of the business, and quite honestly, not something that I think anybody wants to be in. So
would you walk away from a tender RFP that had 60 plus days, 120 days payment terms in?
I think again, this is the challenge, because it's not black and white. You have to take into every other factor that goes into this. You know, what does the relationship look like? What's the scale and extent of it? Is it global? Is it US? Is that on fees? Is that on media? All of those are factors that need to be weighed and evaluated. And you may be able to flex on some of those, but certainly if it is you know, across the board and unilateral, it becomes prohibitive. Okay,
Rob, I'm not putting words in your mouth this time.
What would we walk away? We wouldn't even be in a pitch for 120 payments. Those sort of pitches, primarily, to Adam's point, are global, massive brands, massive companies bullying the holding companies, you know, with volume. Now, we are flexible on payment terms. We wouldn't do it as a ongoing contract. I mean, to Adam's point, we're not a bank, you know. We are relatively cash rich, but we're not a bank. But what we would do is help if needed. Yeah, I mean, the danger of that is always you set a precedent. But we have had instances over the last 6 months where clients who've been with us for a long time, 20 years, needed help. If we can help like a good partner, we will. But it's not sustainable ongoing. And there's nothing in it for us. There's not a global alignment. There's not winning a $1 billion in, you know, China. Therefore, we'll compromise the US. That's just not where we play.
Great, Nina, what do you think about payment terms? Are you guys pushing it out?
I mean, it is a tricky issue. It's different from market to market, right? It's great to hear the perspective of Adam and Rob on this. I would say for the agencies to kind of find a common ground with procurement, you might consider like, I guess, explaining us maybe more, right, about the processes of like buying the media across different channels and what's internal process for you guys, and maybe discuss the reconciliation process, right, and the billing process, because the payment terms are so much more than just the days of post payment, right? It's how, when you're getting paid after reconciliation or not. So yeah, if procurement professionals will understand it, I think as a partners, and if it's a good partnership, long-standing one, we'll always be coming to a middle ground that works for both.
Yeah. Rob, do you think procurement people have enough knowledge of media to understand the role in the marketing media mix?
Sorry, I can't hear you. You're on mute. It's difficult without overgeneralize. You know, that's a massively general question. You know, I had a really positive conversation yesterday on a new business pitch, and I felt really good. I've got another one tomorrow, and I'll probably feel frustrated and be hitting my forehead against the desk. So it really, I think what we're seeing, where we play is, let's call it mid-market mass clients in the US. So it's very kind of up and down. But what we are seeing is more, where there isn't the knowledge, there is more partnership with marketing and media people than there was before. That let's say in a pitch, it used to be, yeah, that's the agency I want, now go hammer them down for price. Yeah, and throw it over the shoulder, and procurement would take. What we're seeing is, in a pitch situation, is media people and marketing people involved right up to the very signing of the contract. So I do think, yeah, I don't expect procurement people to know as much as my people do about media. At that point, we're more a reflection of my company than their company. But I do think people are starting to realise what they don't know, and that's the most important piece. And they're looking for partners to fill in the gaps and to be involved in it. And that's creating a slightly different conversation.
Yeah.
That may be different with multinationals, Fortune 500, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. I think the question's just come in from Mark. Is it because procurement people are getting involved earlier, or because marketing is staying involved until later?
Later, I would say.
Okay.
Later, yeah.
Okay. What about culture? Is that important when you're doing?
I think procurement are also being held responsible for when it doesn't work. Because
being blamed.
Well, what used to happen is, you know, you get bludgeoned by procurement, you cut the rate, you underservice, the relationship is a mess. I think now procurement have a better long-term view of this rather than it's a one-off transaction. So procurement, you know, and we see this come back in and check, not just marketing people on the ongoing relationship, but procurement people as well. So they're being held responsible, not just to get the lowest price, but to make sure they get the best value out of the agency. Yeah.
So by something like a supplier relationship management program or something like that, I guess, Nina or Mariano, in terms of, do you look at that have a long-term relationship with the agencies?
Well, I think, at least from my perspective, and following what the rest have said already, I think the evolution of procurement of sourcing on media is to get a better engagement with especially for the large companies like us that use an intermediate media agency as the buying channel. We need to get a lot better understanding and more communication on what are the key things that we're looking for. I think oftentimes we have taken a very hands-off approach, large companies regarding this, and that's what created all these disconnects and the distrust about the actual results and the productivity that we were getting. So I think to the extent that we realized that the expertise and the execution is highly dependent on the media agencies, but at the same time, they shouldn't be navigating in autopilot or without getting feedback and input on what the priorities and the key levers that we want to pull are. I think that's the balance that you had to strike. You had to let them do their work, but that doesn't mean, you know, forgetting about the whole process altogether, or just managing the little piece of the agency fee and the KPIs on their performance, which is, in my humble opinion, many times are kind of self-fulfilling prophecies and not real value-added metrics. So I think it's more about getting more in the actual process without necessarily interfering or trying to slow them down, but getting more familiar with the actual in and out of the day-to-day.
And Nina, do you have an SR? Sorry, Adam.
I was going to say it's interesting. I mean, I completely agree with what Mariano is saying, and actually, not to be contrarian to Rob, but our clients are typically larger in scale and oftentimes global, and so the sophistication of strategic sourcing is often really, really good, and they are pretty readily abreast of situations. But what we're seeing, to kind of marry that with what Mariano is just describing, is we're seeing a growing trend of strategic sourcing actually reporting into marketing, so that they become a lever of unlocking true reciprocal value, and not just savings. And everything that they do is put through the lens of what the marketer wants to ultimately achieve. So you start to break down some of the disconnect of a baton being passed between, that's the agency I want, now go hammer them down.
Thank you. D&O, I know diversity and inclusion, Mariano, was really, really hot for you guys in Citi this year. How are you addressing that with your agencies? Mariano, diversity and inclusion?
Well, I mean, we are addressing it head on. We have issued our CMO, Carla, has issued a very direct communication a couple of weeks ago, asking for very specific targets, all the way from the media channels that we're buying from, the leadership of our agencies and production companies, the people that we staff or we use for our castings, and the goal is really, you would think, why are you getting into all that minutia? What is that for Citi? And the reality is directly nothing. A lot of these had nothing to do with getting more value for our dollars, but it is the realization that we have the opportunity, because of our global branding, significant spend in the space, to do the right thing and to kind of put everybody, and by the way, nobody's contradicting or saying we don't want to do that. Everybody understand that that's the way to go. So it's trying to drive, in the long term, things are not going to change overnight, but try to drive the right behaviors without necessarily boxing us on doing things that are not natural or irrational, but making sure that we keep track of that. So we're very excited. We think that if we do this, and by the way, I'm very positive about the things that we've done. I think we still have a long way to go as a society, but if you look at all the progress made across the board, I think it's very important to realize that there has been significant progress. So we're jumping right on, and we want to help our larger ecosystem to be an agent of change and driving these necessary changes.
Rob, how do you see it from an agency point of view, being asked to look at your diversity and inclusion? Does it affect how you recruit, how you manage your team?
No, not really. I just think it's incredibly sad that to get any movement in this place, in this industry, I should say, we feel that clients have to put targets for their partners and their agencies. I mean, that's I just want to take that's a really sad reflection on it. We'll do it because we need to, and we have to, right? And I think that's, so while if that's what it takes to do it, great. But it is a really, really sad moment. Like everybody, I mean, diversity, we've never had issues, gender diversity. We obviously, until very recently, we've started, female started, female led. 75% of our leadership is female, senior leadership. We've never had a problem with ageism, which is coming up. I think that's a topic that we see more and more discussion on. Again, tenure of our people is 12 to 15 years. We are proud that people can go through their whole lives and have a career in power, and all of the life stages that entails. We are below where I would like us to be on ethnic diversity. Like the whole industry, we struggle with that. We're doing a lot on that. I think our biggest push at the moment really is inclusion. Is creating an environment for inclusion, and we're doing that regardless. We have not had targets or DI or mentioned in a pitch as yet. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming, but we're doing it anyway. I've been in this business 30 years. You just despair that it's taken this to get us to move.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get off my soapbox.
And before Mike comes back in to wrap up, our last question, Nina, what's the one bit of advice that you would share with the audience about how to deliver a win-win relationship with your media agency? One bit of advice.
Yeah, we discussed so many things today, right? I guess if you summarize it in one, have a supplier relationship management process in place, right? And develop it together with your business partner and with the agency. Try to have an actual document and make sure like the leadership is enforcing it. And yeah, don't be afraid to have those harsh conversations about where you are, where you want to be, and how each party can help. And from procurement standpoint, I'm really like looking for an agency to educate us at on some points, because with COVID almost overnight we went through from a function that negotiates the agency fees and helps with CRM and payment terms to suddenly sitting at the table and discussing media measurement and auditing, and not all of us have that experience and knowledge. So that's one of the biggest pieces I'm looking for now, the learning, the development, the education that our media partner can give us as a function.
Adam, one bit of advice for our audience today about a win-win?
I think to try and probably tie those two thoughts together around DEI and win-wins. There was a really good example recently where I did another panel and we were asked, how clients get diversity. And there was someone on the panel from the client side who very quickly said, we demand it. And I think that is a really difficult way of creating a win-win scenario, because the reality of the situation is the agency will quite often reflect what the client's composition or demands are, or expectations rather. And so it's really hard for us to create an environment where we can bring in really diverse perspectives, talent, backgrounds, ethnicity, whatever the case may be, when the clients themselves don't reflect their own values. And so I think this is where having something like a target isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it aligns us again to a common goal. And I think to Nina's point, we've got to find what that opportunity is for both parties and work towards it together, because if it's one-sided, it just doesn't work. And it's being borne out across every kind of facet of our business, and DEI right now is just one of them.
Great, thank you. Mariano, have you got one bit of advice you'd like to share about a win-win?
I think it's, I put a little comment in the chat. I think it's understanding the trade-off. There's always something to trade for a win. And the win-win, I guess it reflects more that you want to win more than you're sacrificing or compromising. So look at the net win, and I think it's every situation is different. I think it's also understanding what is a win for you. I think it does. Some people get. I was, again. Oh, by the way, if you ever need a bank in terms of payment terms, don't forget about Citi. We can help you on that. But I was a little bit surprised. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised how much. Interaction we have in the whole issue of payment terms, because I guess that's very important. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking. But that's only one area, and you need to understand what is that you really is important for you. Okay, fine. If payment term is the most important thing for you, okay, fine. Like I said, call Citi might help you. But you need to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve overall. Don't get hung up on the trend of the moment, because as everybody said that we should be having a 120-day payment term. That's what we run to do. So I think it's, it's like everything, understanding what constitutes a win for you.
Sure, thank you. And last word goes to Rob. What one bit of advice would you give for a win-win to our audience today?
Mine's really practical. Don't write this. Don't finalise the scope until you've worked together for at least 3, possibly 6 months. Know everybody. Like pitching is speed dating, and we're all getting married on a speed date, and we're all going, no, we're not this kind of client. We don't need that. We don't need this. 6 months in, when you know each other, good and bad, then you write the scope, and then everybody knows what they're getting into. And the problem is we're writing scopes with 0 self-awareness from the client and 0 self-awareness from the client. So that, if it's possible, and I know it's not always possible, work together for a period before you finalise the scope. And then once you've got the scope, just stick to it. Okay.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. I'll invite Mike back in to wrap up.
Hey, everybody.
Brilliant. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much to this panel. I knew we were going to go down the path on the payment thing. I've been telling everybody in the Procurement Foundry, you need to swim upstream when everybody's streaming downstream. Go to your media outlets and tell them that you want to pay in 15 days. You want to find a friend. You'll have a friend when you start doing stuff like that, and they'll be really, really interested in helping you when they have a need. And I think all of you said that it's on a bank. I think Rob, you should, and to kind of paraphrase what Rob said, test drive the car before you buy it, or get into some dating before you actually start throwing. I think that's an amazing insight, Rob. So thank you very much to the panel. Thank you, Mariano, Nina, Adam, again, as always, informative. Tina, thank you so much for guiding us. I'm going to jump out because I got to start the next session right now, but thank you. And I think there's a whole bunch of other questions that came in literally right at the end of the gate there. So they might want to kick into the networking lounge and ask you all some questions. If you've got time to go into the Slack networking lounge, please feel free to do so. And any insights and any documentation or comments that you guys want to add. And ladies, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.